Huston Hugh Riley, United States Army, World War II, folks. This is one of my most favorite stories of all the 1,000 interviews I've done over the years. Hugh Riley was a friend of mine. I interviewed him on Normandy Beach in France on June 7th, 2004, day after the 60th anniversary. This was the first time Hugh ever went back to Omaha Beach since he fought as a teenager in 1944. It was an emotional interview for me. We walked out onto the beach. I captured all of the emotion on camera that he experienced as an 80-year-old man now in his 80s. And it's just a it was a divine connection, a special moment. You're going to see the whole interview here in France that I did almost 20 years ago. Hugh went to heaven in 2011. He lived to be 90 years of age. I met him and his wife Charlotte in Mercer Island, Washington. I actually did a second interview with Hugh just before he passed away. And maybe I'll show that someday. But this is the first love of my work, folks, Omaha Beach. Hugh served proudly with F Company, 2nd Battalion, 16th Infantry Regiment, 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red One. They took the most casualties on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd waves on the landing. Operation Overlord, they called it. Eisenhower's master plan to go in, and it's the beginning of the end for Germany. And like some people say, we'd be speaking German here in America today if we wouldn't have gone in there. So nothing against the German language. I studied German in high school, so I love the language. But folks, this is why we're free. Stories like Hugh Riley, he's gone. He's been gone for 11 years now, almost 12 years. And it's just an incredible opportunity for you to learn. I want to thank, before I forget, I want to thank Stephen Rizzo for sponsoring the story. Stephen, thank you. Look, you told me to pick a story. This is the story, man. This is a great story. I hope you like it. And I want to thank you for making it possible for so many others around the world to hear Hugh Riley's story today. So Stephen, I salute you. Thank you for your continuous support of my work and checking out some of my songs too on my website. So folks, it doesn't get any better than this. What can I say? Hugh also served, fought in North Africa, Sicily, first waves there, was severely wounded in the Battle of the Bulge, and has 3 Purple Hearts for his service in the military. PFC, Hugh Riley. And I don't want to forget to mention, Hugh was the famous picture that Time magazine photographer Robert Capa took of him. It's called The Face in the Surf. For many years, nobody knew who it was. It was Hugh Riley. This is who you're going to see today. His famous picture is known around the world, just like the flag raising in Iwo Jima. This is a famous picture. Most of the photos were destroyed. They weren't developed properly in England. Only 8 blurry pictures survived landing in Omaha Beach that Capa took, and this is one of them. So, and I'm just excited. Can you tell? This is a great special interview of mine that I did. And folks, if you'd like to sponsor a story, there's information in the video description on my website if you want to donate to my work, in the comment section of this video. So thank you again, Stephen Rizzo, and I want to present to you now one of my most all-time favorite stories, Hugh Riley. And he lived, like I said, to be 90 years old and was in his 80s when I did this interview on Omaha Beach. So I hope you really like this. Subscribe to this channel, and let's keep this thing going. God bless you.
There's quite a bit here now. helicopters flying by yesterday. They looked like old Hueys.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
They were flying. One was flying right just above the beach.
Yeah.
Nice thing.
There's still some beach exposed out there, even though the tide's high.
Yeah.
I was thinking, this little area here. So you came in on Easy Red, Hugh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They put a lot of rocks in here, haven't they?
Yeah. Have you done a lot of thinking about that day, Hugh? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
tell me, just give me a rundown of early morning June 6th and where you were and approximately. That we're on the Easy Red sector, but just give me your thoughts, what you remember.
Well, I just was thinking when the tide was out, you could see the indentations in the sand out there where there was highs and lows, where there were deep pockets of water, and you could see how a landing barge could get hung up on them. Yesterday, I looked down here. You could see the big holes and the swales in the in the sand. And what happened was that the landing craft hit one of those sandy bars, and it turned, I say, to the port side and just kind of went up in the air, and they dropped the gate. And well, I stepped off and I went clear down over my head. And the barge, when I came up, I could see that the landing barge had been hit by a shell because there was just nothing left of it. And I was sitting there floating like a big duck, and I just took the life jacket off and got down behind it and kind of pushed it in front of me and swam toward the beach. But I apparently was off center because I landed more towards E Company than I did where F Company was supposed to land, and we got in behind the little hill there in the rocks, which you can see right down through here. And I was drug up by a sergeant from E Company out of the surf. The tide was way in by the time that I got in, and which is not quite full in now. But I got in pretty close to the bank, and they drugged this photographer and Sergeant B Company drugged me up to the bank, and that's just about the time that I got hit. Just when I stood up and started to run. But they drugged me out of the surf, and I was just soaking wet, heavier than hell, to try and run with anything, all the equipment on. But I can see the bank down through here and where we got behind it, because all the artillery and the machine guns were all up on the hill and all the emplacements here. When we got close to the bank, most of the fire was over our head out toward the sea. That's about as far as I could tell you right now without looking at it, but I would say it would be down in here where we landed, right close to the bank.
Hugh, does it seem like yesterday or does it seem like 60 years ago?
Oh, it probably a long time ago, really. But I can look at it as kind of yesterday, I guess. But it's so much different with all the emplacements in the water gone that were there. It was pretty ferocious with all the uprights and the pilings with the mines on top of them, and the dragons, as they called them, which were all welded together, big crosses, were all in the water to stop any boats from coming in close. And some of the guys got behind them, I know, and were kind of hiding out there in the water. But we lost probably over half the company coming in. And we finally got together in the afternoon and made it over the hill here. But it was a long, long time.
Hugh, what do you remember about the ride in that morning on boat? Tell me about that.
Well, it was real rough. It was rough. The weather was not like this at all. It had been stormy for about a week, and this was just a little let up, and the waves were just tremendous. The guys were getting into the damn thing off the big ship was really tough because it was heaving and back and forth. The getting in and the guy's getting sick. God, we were out there running around, seemed like for 2 or 3 hours before we actually got in formation and came in a wave into shore. And the guys were sick and crying and yelling, and, you know, and I think more of them were probably more scared than anything else. But the reality of it all came to pass pretty quick, because once we started in, we just came in a big line and then hit the beach, and everybody opened up. There was everything. The shells from the battleship would come in and just about suck you clear off the water, because they came over just so close. I don't know, there were 12-inch, and there was a lot of 5-inch, a lot of 12-inch, I guess. But they were right over your head, just like an automobile just going, and the suction of the air, that shell passing overhead would pick you right off the ground like this and just lay you down again. And there was scrap on the beach. There were tanks that tried to come in, were shot, floating tanks that dropped their skirts and came in, and they were ripped apart right on the beach. And there was a lot of landing craft turned sideways, and the debris you wouldn't believe was just everywhere. It was just everywhere.
I mean, you're a young man. I mean, have you ever been in combat before that?
Yes, I was in Africa, Kasserine Pass. We invaded Africa at Arzu, which is near Oran. And then we got out of that and went into Sicily. Went in, I think, the beach at Gila, and drove in there. And that was pretty fierce fighting, because the Germans told the Italian Sicilians, we'll drive them into the sea. But we had the 105 howitzers bore shooting the tanks. They weren't going up. They were just bore shooting them straight on when the tanks came on the beach. And they don't normally do that. They were just actually, because they came over the hill, they just opened bore shooting directly and just opened those tanks up like they were tin cans. They just, you know, a direct hit from 105 howitzers, pretty awesome.
Tell me again about you're coming in. You came in a little after H-hour, right?
Yeah, it was HR, first wave, as far as I know.
Are you a support for the men in the landing craft, or were they all been in combat before? Were they looking to?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, they're all veterans. They're all veterans.
But you said you noticed some of the guys.
Well, there was a few substitutes. There was some guys we picked up in England, which were first-time combat.
Give me your whole regiment and division and company.
Company F, 16th Infantry, of the 1st Division.
16th, not 116th, 16th.
No, 16th Infantry Division.
Right, okay.
The 1st Division was made up of the 16th, 18th, and 26th Infantry battalions, and we were Company F, 16th Infantry, and we were a rifle company, which consisted of, you know, M1s and BARs and light mortars and machine guns.
So what did they tell you before you came in? It's going to be bad, or did you think all the naval shelling and Air Force was going to knock everything out?
I thought maybe perchance they might have knocked more out than they did. But they didn't get them all, because they didn't get they didn't get all the machine gun nests or the big guns. They didn't. I thought they would have, but they didn't. They were still very effective. Machine gun nests. The infantry was deadly fire. There was a lot of. When you wipe that many guys out in a hurry, it's got to be a tremendous amount of fire. I noticed that machine gun, when I was down in the water, coming up, before I came up, I could see the bullets hitting the water, and back and forth and back and forth. And they'd come in and hit the water, and they lose their momentum, and they just drop to the bottom. But you could actually see, that's looking up and seeing them coming down at you. It's pretty fierce. But it was, they raked me when I was swimming in. They hit me probably, 4, 5, 6 times, but not in the pack and in the shoe. It didn't really do any damage at all, but I could feel them, and they were just sweeping back and forth, back and forth. And every once in a while, they just in the water, you could see them in front of you, behind you. I was just lucky as hell to get as close as I did before I did get hit.
Tell me about the others in the boat. How many of them made it out of that boat?
I would guess about 8. About 8 guys got out of the thing. The rest of them, I saw coming in. I saw several guys. I went to the cemetery information office and got a list of the guys, and I saw 4 or 5 guys that I knew floating upside down and had been hit. Were in the boat with me. They're all in the same platoon. And one Sergeant Price, I know, I saw him lying, floating upside down. He was from Long Island, I know. And I see his list that he's up there in the graveyard. He was one of the guys that came off the computer list the other day. And there was a bunch of guys, Lieutenant Duckworth, saw him floating by as I went in. But I just swam, try to keep a real low profile and get in as close as I could. I just luckier than hell, really.
You know, but you had to have been scared, Hugh. I mean,
Hey, come on.
what's going through your mind at that time?
Well,
Just survival, or just?
I would say after a couple of years of combat, you get kind of a fatalistic attitude, like maybe this is it, you know. And you wonder just when it's going to happen, and you don't know, and you're kind of saying a few words and wishing you could be someplace else. And how the hell did I ever get into this, you know? But it was pretty ferocious, I would say, that the firepower and the thing we got in. I knew it was going to be really, really rough. I had a feeling it was going to be rough. Because from the emplacements they had to stop the boats and everything, you could just tell it was just going to be a real mayhem, because the shelling was coming off the shore when they opened up. When we came in, they really opened up. We were the first wave, and they just let everything fall. And it was just getting light. And by the time I got in, it was pretty light. But this tide comes in farther than this, I know, because I was pretty close to the bank when I ended up. I tried to seem like I tried to make like I was floating in. But I was really swimming like hell.
So how deep was the water when you got out?
Oh, I would say maybe a foot, maybe a foot. Yeah, when I finally got out, it was about a foot deep, but it was a couple, 3 feet swimming in, you know. I was kind of clawing along the bottom.
Have you been down to this beach since this happened?
No, I haven't.
This is the first time.
This is the first time.
So, listen, I mean, how, in your mind, are you hearing the machine guns and the artillery?
Oh yeah, I can still see it. Yeah, I can still see it. There was a lot of fire, a lot of firepower. There were a lot of big guns back on the hills too that were firing. But you could see the heads of the soldiers up in the emplacement. Apparently there were trenches up above, which we finally got up. We could look down and see the trenches where they were. Most of the gun emplacements are now gone that they had here. They were kind of a large, not, well, I would say concrete emplacement. I think they've removed most of them now. As near as I can determine, they've taken most of them out. But you could look up and see them. They were actually hanging right on the bluff, right on the edge of the bluff here. They're all dug in. But there was, I think they had a lot of 88s and some 75s, which were in places all along the bank. There were actually pillboxes.
What did it sound like, the machine gun fire? Did it sound like?
Well, you've heard it before. I mean, I've heard it before in Africa and everywhere else. It was the same.
Yeah.
It was just really cracked. Well, you can tell when a shell passes over your head, you can hear it crack. You hear the snap of it. But as it breaks the air, as it goes over your head, you can hear it.
So were they shooting?
You never hear the one that hits you.
Were they shooting at you before the ramp went down?
Oh yeah. They hit the boat. They hit the front of the boat. You could hear them. You could hear the machine gun hit the gate on the boat, very definitely. And as soon as they dropped the thing, everybody jumped off. I know a lot of guys didn't make it. I was one of the lucky ones, because I think a couple of guys came off behind me. I don't know, but I didn't really see them. But
So
I know.
you weren't in the front of the boat. You about the middle, maybe? Or?
Oh no, I was about the third guy.
Uh-huh.
So a bunch of guys went off, and they went to the left. I went to the right, and they hit the sandbar and were up to about their chest, and I went clear down because there was a big swale there, and it was pretty deep. It was about 10, 12 feet deep.
Did you try to help anybody if they got hit? Or
No, I didn't right there at all. I didn't really get close to anybody right there, because when I did come up, the guys were off to my left. Some guys were swimming, and God, there was a hell of a lot of bodies there. I think the boat took a direct hit from a shell from one of the emplacements up there right after we got off, because some of the guys never made it. Never made it at all.
What about the Navy crew on the boat? Did they get out of there?
Well, they were actually Coast Guard men.
Okay.
Yeah, they're Coast Guard. I don't think so, no. No, that boat just disintegrated. It was just gone. They had the guy steering the boat, and one on either side with a machine gun, but I don't think they ever made it. Really. No, that boat was split right in half. And I think, I would say probably about 8 or 9 of us got off before it was hit.
How about any of the other boats coming on either side of you? Were you conscious of what happened with them?
No, I know that some went in farther because the water was deeper, and some of them one went off, two went off and hit the barricades they had on the beach here, and they turned sideways and the guys got off. That's the last I ever saw them. I don't know if they made it or not. But I know the boats on my left, on the port side, came in and unloaded. And I know they got raked pretty hard in the machine gun fire. But it was pretty awesome. They had, well, there were rockets going overhead. There was artillery fire both ways. And we were just luckier than hell to get to where we did get. But we got up against the bank, I know, over here. And I got hit right through there, really, about 4 times.
Oh, man.
And one of them's still in my arm. One of them's still here.
Can you tell me about tell me about the first time you were hit, and the second, and third, fourth time? What do you remember about that?
Well, that was all hit. This was all at the same time.
Okay.
It was machine gun fire. It all went in at the same time. Apparently, because they were all followed. 2 went through, 1 stayed in, and 1's still there now. But it's kind of like a guy smashing you right in the chest with his fist as hard as he could. You know, you could really feel it. It didn't knock me down, but it kind of staggered me a little bit. But I pulled over, and an aid man put some sulfa on my back and patched me up, and that was it. I was able to go over another 5-6 days before they sent me back to the hospital. The sergeant the old man got hit, and the first sergeant said, "Hey, you've been hit, fella." And he finally looked at my back. I was getting a little weaker. I could feel it. I guess the loss of blood. But they finally sent me back about 6 days back to England.
Can you tell me now, I mean, the ride in from did you get off of an LST onto the landing craft or whatever you were on? What were you
We were
on?
on a big
LCI or LCT?
troop ship. Yeah, it was a troop ship, yeah.
When you got off and you got in that boat and you got information, started coming in the shore, I mean, was it a long ride? Was it a
Well, they
cold ride?
circled. They circled. They circled for probably about an hour. After all the boats got loaded and they got information, they were talking back and forth. And they gave a signal, and they all lined up and they all went in line. So it was probably, oh Christ, it had to be 2 hours by the time of loading and circling, at least 2 hours.
So what are you doing in the boat? You just thinking, praying?
Yeah,
What are you doing?
yeah, just thinking and praying. You're crouched down, you know, kneeling down, and you're standing up and you're looking over the edge.
I mean, what are you thinking? You're a few hundred meters off and you're coming closer. I mean, you're thinking this could be it. I mean, get killed or?
Well, from the shells that were flying, you could think, is this boat going to make it? You know, you're running into shore, and you actually went as far as you did. You were amazed. There were some boats that were hit before they even got close to shore. But we got in. We were pretty lucky. I'd say that we really opened fire just about the time they dropped the gate, because that's when all the crap cut loose. But it was a long ride in. The guys were sick, and some guys were saying, "Oh God," and hear them praying and saying all kinds of funny things, you know. And I say the old sergeant said, "Hey, fella, this is it, boys. We're going. Let's go." You know, when they dropped the gate.
And he got killed right after that?
Yep. Yes, he did. I saw him float by as I went in.
Machine gun fire, pretty much, you think?
I would say, yeah, machine gun fire wiped him out. I think he got hit right on the ramp.
So tell me what did he say again to you guys? He said,
"Come on, boys, let's go. This is it." This is it.
And then the ramp dropped.
Yep. Ramp dropped. I think I'd like to go down there and walk out and take a picture of the bank if I could.
Sure. Let me
Yeah.
just get a couple more questions from you and
Yeah.
we'll go down there. But looking back 60 years, I mean, what do you think about D-Day and the significance of D-Day and this anniversary we just had?
Oh, I think it's pretty tremendous, really. I'd say the French went all out. Especially in this area, they're very. They can't do enough for you, really. The feeling is tremendous. Being helpful, doing this, giving directions. I would say it's very, very significant to what has happened here. You can tell by the villages and the town we went through. The decorations, the ceremonies. I think it's pretty significant, really. I think it's a real tribute to the guys, especially those that didn't make it, because it was a real deal. It finally made the French free, and they're just happier than hell. In this area right here, you can really feel the difference. Paris, they could care less, you know, most part. But I'd say the villages around here and the towns, just can't do enough for you. Oh yeah, they're great.
Hey, Hugh, did you see Saving Private Ryan?
Yeah,
Did the first part of that movie remind you of your landing?
Yeah, I will say one thing. They made it across the beach a hell of a lot faster than we did.
Yeah, in 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's about right. Of course, that's the movie. It was pretty gruesome the way they did it. It was just a small smattering of what really happened. Yeah, but the crap that was laid on the beach and the bodies and shit, it's unbelievable to a guy today trying to think about that and look at it and to describe it to anybody. Be difficult. It'd be very difficult to see all that equipment and bodies and everything else, and the guys against the bank trying to work their way through, and the Germans trying to sneak down and taking prisoners. We took a few prisoners before we ever got really inland, but it'd be very, very difficult to describe to an individual today, to let them know how it really was. It'd be tough.
Did you guys ever even fire any shots?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yes, they did. Yeah, there was a lot of firing there. We picked off a lot of guys that were trying to sneak down around us. Yeah, we got a lot of them. That's where we took a lot of prisoners, right on the beach.
Hugh, I've asked all the veterans this question. I've interviewed over 70 men now. Tell me, what does freedom mean to you in light of what you went through in World War II and today? What does it mean to be free and live in a free country, and the price for freedom?
Well, the price of freedom is pretty high sometimes, but I'd say it's great to be able to look at some of the other people in the world and to see what we have. I think we're pretty tremendous. I criticize everybody who criticizes us because I think they're jealous of what we have. I think they just don't really know what freedom is, and I look at the present war in Iraq, and I think if we could ever establish a country that was free there, where they could do their thing and get away from this goddamn tribal situation they have in their politics, if they have any, and their religion is so bearing on them, they just can't do anything. They don't want it. They want their man to be the one guiding fellow that's going to clear everything. But instead, what they should do is to get together and have the tribes mold together. But they won't do it. They won't do it. Every leader has to have his say and has to have his little plot and his group around him. And it's difficult. If they could establish one democracy in that part of the country, they'd have it made. I think it would clear up the Jewish problem over there and everything else. But they just won't do it. They've been in existence for probably longer than we have, and they've done less.
Yeah.
They really have done less. They're so confined to a little tribal area and the little area they live in, they can't ever get together. I'd say freedom is tremendous, really. They should look at the people that come to our country. They just can't believe it. They just work their ass off just to get going, you know. But I think freedom is a tremendous thing. If people experience it once, they will never go back to it. Even the people that come from the Far East and come to America and make a living for freedom, they don't have to worry about their going passports and everything else. And send their children to school. It's really fantastic.
Can you tell me about the significance of D-Day? Why was D-Day so important?
Well, I think it broke the back. I think it broke the back of the fascist regime. I think it really did. I think it really gave I don't know. I think it gave Europe a real sensation of wanting to help and urgency. I think it really broke the back of the Nazis, I think. They had, that was kind of the beginning of the end, really, for them, because they had failed over in Russia. They were being pushed back, and we were crowding them pretty heavy. I would say it was really significant as far as the freeing of Europe went. I was glad I was to be a part of it. I really was. I don't regret it at all.
Now, Hugh, you were in the rifle company. You guys were infantrymen.
Right, that's right.
All of you in the boats.
Yep.
All of F Company.
Yep.
How many people in F Company?
Oh, I would guess probably around 250, I think. I would guess 250.
How many do you think made it off the beach? Just approximately.
Oh, I'd say probably 75, maybe 50. We were pretty heavily wiped out. Pretty heavily wiped out. I checked the records on it. It may have been more than that, but a hell of a lot of them wounded, I know that.
Now, you had been in combat before, but was this worse than the other places?
I would say yes. Yes, I would say it's worse. It was worse than Catherine Pass or meeting the French in Arzew or the Sicilians. I'd say it's far worse. There was more firepower here. The battle in Aachen and up around the Bastogne and something like that was pretty ferocious. I'd say it was a lot longer. But here firepower was probably more fierce. There's more of it, and there was more desperation on our part because we had our backs to the water. And I'd say it was probably pretty terrific as far as everything I'd ever been in. There may have been worse.
You come home after the war, did you talk about any of this?
Oh, not much. No, not very much. No, you kind of kept it to yourself. You didn't really.
Do you find yourself talking more now?
Oh, I guess so. In situations like this, I would say that probably in talking more about it than I would be normally. Yeah, because I've seen some guys. I've seen some guys around that want to talk about it. I get a lot of young lads that very reluctantly ask questions. That especially a lot of buffs that are World War II buffs, young lads that want more history, and they want you were a part of it, and they'd like to ask you questions. I don't mind talking like that. That's fine, because it's part of life.
How do you feel about being out here today? You haven't been down here before. What are your thoughts right now? I mean, looking out into the ocean.
Oh, it looks kind of peaceful and nice. I just looking back and wondering how if any of the people down here on the beach really realize what happened before. I wouldn't know. It's a far cry from what it was then. It's a far cry. Everybody's basking in the sunshine, and that was not a beautiful day. That was miserable. Yeah.
It's hard to believe.
It really is.
Hard to imagine.
It really is hard to imagine that this was a fortress all the way along here. Yep. That was something else again.
Recognize anything?
Well, there was more. There was grass, probably. There was probably more grass like that than there was like this. I would say it would be right about over in there. Looked like, because this may have been. I don't know. You can see the tide coming in here now. Yeah, there was a lot of rocks over. A lot of those rocks are the rocks that were there, really. I don't think they've added anything. I would say that probably approximately right where that gravel is about where we came in, because there was this part was pretty full. This all fills in here with water.
How close to shore were you when you landed? About
Oh,
a bit?
quite a ways out there, really, when we landed. The tide was quite a ways out, and the tide was coming in rapidly. It was stormy as hell. The wind was blowing, but I just kind of floated along. There was so much crap in the water, I didn't think they'd notice me, really, because I tried to play, keep a low silhouette and keep moving as fast as I could. I was in a swimming position and kind of crawling in, and when I got to near the bottom, I was digging in my hands and pulling myself along. And then I tried to get up and run, and the sergeant came out and grabbed me and tried to drag me up. And as he dragged me up, as I just about got to cover, I got hit. But I was under the bank, close to the bank, like over in there, where they couldn't see me. But there was a lot of guys along the top of the bank here firing machine guns, and we had them pretty well covered. They were getting back because there was so much artillery fire off the ships that they were keeping the guys pretty well covered down and keeping their heads down. But that looks like about it over there, I would say, very carefully.
Did you ever been back to the American Cemetery, or was yesterday the first time?
First time, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I got the guy to run the computer list on the company.
Did you find the crosses?
Some of them, yeah. Some of them, yeah. Yeah, there's a mark of where everybody's buried. All you do is go to get a computer deal and look it up, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was about as I expected. Just about same number of guys. I just want to kind of confirm it and kind of look it over. I had it pretty well settled in my mind. But it's kind of nice to come back. I had to do it one time.
How did you find their names? Did you just keep a list of the guys that were with you?
No, I just got it off the computer.
Yeah.
The guy gave me the list. I remembered a lot of the guys.
Okay.
You've been with the guys, through Africa and Sicily. You get to know them pretty well,
Yeah.
and you play cards with them, and you sleep with them, and you fight with them, and you got to know them, their nicknames and everything else, and where they're from, Long Island or Boston or wherever the hell. And there's a lot of guys from Boston and a lot of guys from New York. Pennsylvania, that was pretty much an eastern group, the 1st Division. They were from Fort Benning, or Fort Devon, Massachusetts. That was the home headquarters for the 1st where they trained. But I knew much of the guys by name and their rank and everything else. And you march with them and you train with them. I was a company lifeguard. I stood in a lot of those estuaries in Britain in April and May before the invasion. And I swear to God, some of those guys had never got near water except on maybe Saturday night. Most of them, I used to write letters and read the letters from their mom, their dear mom, and the mom's handwriting was big, like a 3rd grader, And the guy would come in and knock on the tent and say, hey, Hugh, could you read this letter for me? And we'd sit and we'd compose one and write one home. But I remember one guy, the only thing he ever did was make whiskey up in the hills. Oh God, I saw his name. He got wiped out. He couldn't read or write, but a hell of a fighter. God, a hell of a fighter. I went through him through Africa and Sicily. God, he was funnier than hell. He was always joking, laughing, Yeah, I read a lot of letters for a lot of guys, and I was surprised. I taught a lot of those guys how to dog paddle. I said, this is basic. Just try this. And I know one day I was standing with a goddamn towel over my shoulder, and I said, to the guy who turned around like that, I said, Jesus Christ, these guys never saw water except on Saturday night. I don't have to. They ever took a bath. It was General Bradley. He was standing right here. He said, how you doing, soldier? I said, I'm colder than hell. Oh God.
What were your thoughts before you came here today? Were you planning to come down to the beach or not?
I thought I would try to make it. I saw it from above, and I said, God, I got to get down there and take a look at it because.
Were you afraid to come down? Or
not really. No, you're not afraid of it. Hell, you're not afraid of anything anymore. No, I would say no. No, I just wanted to come down and kind of stand and look at the hill, and look at the sand, and think how miserable it was trying to get to the shore. God. Yes, sir. That a long time ago. Huh.
Does it seem like a haunting memory, or is it just was it fading in your mind?
It's a memory. It's kind of unrealistic. You know, it's kind of, you feel like it's unrealistic, but it really isn't. It happened, but to think it happened to me, it's kind of funny to think back of all the things that have transpired in my life. I guess I was one of the more fortunate ones. But it's kind of funny, really, to think that I survived to come back. Huh. I can remember a lot of things about it, though. Some very sad. I think probably the saddest thing is to see a guy wiped out that you spent maybe 2 years with and played cards with, and he borrowed money from you, you know. You made a list of you never got it back. You didn't worry about it. Yeah, I had lent a lot of money to guys and go in the pubs in England and go get drunker than hell and take them back and walk around the MPs with them. Oh boy. Yeah. I was a sergeant one time, and my platoon got into a winery in Sicily after the war, and I was responsible for them, and 2 or 3 guys got drunk and tore the town up. I got busted to a Buckeyes private, and we had went to a rest area in Sicily. We had to dig the trench, and when you had about 12 holes, you know, you build a screen around it and everything. And our detail was to build the damn thing and then maintain it. So in the morning we had to go swat the flies that were inside, and we put gasoline in each hole, you know.
Yeah.
And then a guy yelled at me. He said, "Hey, you! I got to fix this screen. Can you hold me up here? I'll get up and attack the screen." I was sure. And I'd just gotten through putting gas in all the goddamn holes. And the first sergeant came down to me to read the morning report, and he dropped his strides and sat down and lit a cigarette. Boom! Right out through the door. Burned his ass. The first Louis tried to chew me out. He laughed so hard during the dissertation, just about killed himself. The thought that the first sergeant, who was a Polak, Lumbarski, Jesus, he burned his ass pretty bad. But funny. Oh God. Things like that, I guess you don't forget.
Okay, what time is it?
It's 5 minutes to 2.
Okay, you want to head off, or you
Yeah,
want
we
to stay
can do
down a
that.
little bit? It's up to
That's
you.
fine. That's fine with me. I'm happy.
Okay.
I'm happy as a clam at high tide.
Okay.
Appreciate your time, Larry.
Hey, I appreciate you.
Are you from Boulder?
I'm from Grand Junction.
Grand Junction. Okay.
I want to get to Mercer Island sometime. When I do, I'll come see you.
Yeah, do that. We're there.
So there were machine gun nests up in these
Yeah.
areas?
Oh yeah. Yeah. They were all dug in all the way around here. They were dug in, and there was trenches. There was trenches where they could wind in around. In fact, every gun emplacement had trenches all around it. And once you got to the gun emplacement and you got around it, there were trenches, guys with machine guns running up and back. They had a lot of young guys, and a lot of guys that were Romanians and Polacks and people that they pushed in here, and some of them gave up real easy. They didn't want to fight.
Yeah.
They thought, Americanos, you know. Oh boy. That's a dog. Hello, dog.
A lot different today, though, Hugh.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, a lot different. Yeah. God, they built houses down here and everything now. Yeah, that's the point down there. That
Point to Hawk?
Point to Hawk, yeah. Yeah. Huh. Good.